And to tell us how we can actually utilize all of this water better, we're being joined by the Mission Director of the National Water Mission, Archana Verma. Thank you so much for being with us, ma'am, and thank you so much for talking to us. You know, this entire dichotomy that we see, floods in one part, drought and scarcity in the other part, if only we could utilize that water better, wouldn't it be wonderful? And I know you're working on it, so how do you think we can do it better?
So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And yes, the Delhi rains this time and the urban flooding and the havoc that it has created has again brought forth the importance of catching the rain. So the idea is very simple. It is to nudge the states and through community-led participation to go in for water harvesting measures. And as you said, that, you know, urban floods, even rural floods are a problem. And it is only the harvesting of the rainfall which can help India achieve water security by 2050. So before I get into what all can be done, I will give a little statistics to alarm you that though we have around 4,000 billion cubic meter of precipitation, the only utilizable source of water from wherever source, whether it's surface or ground, is only 1126 billion cubic meter. So you see that India has 1126 billion cubic meter, and it is said that if we don't, you know, address both the supply and the demand side, we will be falling short because our demand by 2050 will be 1180 billion cubic meter.
Ma'am, you know, we've done so many programs and we are talking about what to do with water. It's always been about conserve water, switch off your taps, don't waste water, don't bathe for a few months if you can possibly avoid, you know, that sort of a thing. But conservation is fine up to a point. But when you're seeing flood water everywhere, when you're seeing Mumbai underwater, you're seeing Telangana underwater, Delhi floodplains being underwater, when you're seeing water gathered everywhere and that water literally flowing down the drain and getting wasted, you've got to ask yourself the question, surely there has to be a better way in which you can actually utilize the flood water, utilize the excess water, so you don't have to tell people don't drink, don't consume, conserve, just harvest the water more effectively.
Yes, very true. While the steps that you suggested, they are also very important. But in terms of volume, harvesting on rainwater, you know, is very, very crucial that we harvest. We can only harvest the monsoon if our planning is proper.
Yeah.
So it all depends on proper pre-planning of the states or the municipalities or the local bodies, panchayats, the district administration.
Just interrupt you for a minute. When you're talking about storage facility, has there been a change of thinking on that also? Because once upon a time, it was often said that the only correct way to store water, you must have these big Bhakra Nangal type mega projects. Now, increasingly, a lot of the view seems to be that the traditional way is still good. The Bawlis, the check dams, things that perhaps we've had for centuries, and it may be more effective to do this at the micro level, at the village or the panchayat level, rather than large-scale mass schemes. Would you agree with that?
See, I would not say that the dams have not served any purpose. In fact, a lot of progress of India is attributed to the dams. But yes, of late, you know, we are slowly moving away from mega dams to these water harvesting structures, which is the focus of Catch the Rain. Like, there are two things which can be done in urban areas, which is being done in India to prevent urban flooding. As I said, first is you plan. And second, for urban areas, it has to be rooftop rainwater harvesting. And second is artificial recharge of our dug wells and bore wells. That is the only solution for urban flooding. I mean, apart from the new technologies, like you have sponge cities and you have stormwater drainage systems, you have green spaces and no encroachment, no pollution. those are the measures which can be there. But the biggest technology which will work to prevent urban flooding is we have pre-planned our storage capacities through rejuvenating our dug wells and bore wells, and rain water rooftop harvesting, for which the citizens also need to contribute. So these are the ways in which urban flooding can be managed.
Thank you, Archana ji. And from our side, we'll try and do whatever we can to also change mindsets, which at the end of the day is what this program is all about. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure talking to you. Such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. Well, let's now get another top expert to talk about this. Somebody who was one of the first people to start pushing very aggressively on how you can actually do catching the rain and water harvesting. Somebody who also has been doing a lot of work on how sanitation is particularly important on this, because you can't just catch the rain or capture water if that water is not clean. Sanitation becomes a very important part of this. It's a great pleasure now to be joined by Mr. Bharat Lal, who was former Additional Secretary, Drinking Water and Sanitation, the Ministry of Jal Shakti, is right now the Secretary General of the NHRC, and also one of the people who believes that at the NHRC that, look, clean water, clean air, these are very much human rights, and therefore it is particularly important. Bharat Lal ji, thank you so much for joining us. Now, we've been discussing water and catch the rain and rainwater harvesting for many, many years. I've done so many programs with you, so I felt that we must, of course, get your expertise on this. But even from the point of view of the NHRC and, as human rights, do you believe that something like water is, at the end of the day, a human right, and it is something which we should prioritize? You should have clean water, you should have clean air for that matter, and that should be a human right for everyone.
Well, as we all know, that a country like ours, where out of 365 days, we have roughly 20 plus minus 5-6 days as rainy days. And whatever rainfall we get, the idea is that you collect it, store it, and use it wisely. That is more important. So conservation means not only protection of water sources or basically using water efficiently. It means proper utilization, efficient utilization, as well as storage. Now, in Indian context, when we are having, hardly 25, 30 days as rainy days, whatever water we get, we have to collect it, store it safely, and use it for whole 1 year, maybe next year. Because of climate change, I think we all are seeing that we have high intensity rainfall, and basically which leads to flood. In fact, we also are having rainfall in unexpected drought-prone, semi-arid and arid region. Take Western India, Gujarat and Maharashtra. There are many places basically which were traditionally known as drought-prone. We are having heavy rain. It means we have to prepare ourselves to store, to catch that water, to catch that rainfall, store it, and then use it. The good part is that, like I have seen in Gujarat in last 20 years, a number of steps have been taken where basically all these water bodies have been rejuvenated. All these reservoirs and dams have been desilted and rejuvenated. So their storage capacity has increased. Now, your second part is that water conservation or water security does not mean just simply reduce the consumption. The real issue is that how to use the water efficiently. It means we have to learn about that part also.
All right, Bharat Lal ji, let me now turn to the question on which I have done a campaign with you just a couple of years ago. Water being treated not just as something which you have to try and conserve and worry about the consumption, but also how you utilize it better. Now, take a look at what we are seeing all around us on TV screens, in the newspapers. So much flooding, so much water being wasted, and this is fresh water. There's an emphasis on fresh water. This is fresh water being wasted, causing damage and destruction along with that. How do we utilize this better? Just want to get your thoughts on that.
See, one thing, so when it comes to storing water overground, it has certain limitations. And especially if even in drought-prone and desert region, if you see that there are very few water bodies or few reservoirs. But second important part is that if we basically rejuvenate them, we deseed them, we strengthen them, I think you can store more water. That is one part. But second, untapped territory is basically recharging of aquifers. So if you have excess water and you have recharge structure, it means you can store this water underground in aquifer. The only precondition is that we have to keep our surface clean, means it should be open defecation free so that human fecal matter or contamination doesn't go basically in underground aquifers. So whole country has to work about basically on storing water underground. And when I talk about underground, is not only in basically underground tanks and rainwater harvesting structure alone. It is more important to store this water in unlimited aquifers. And lastly, I think we have to start respecting water. We have to construct, when we are taking real estate development or any kind of infrastructure development, we must see where is the drainage line, where water in what direction it is going, and best way forward is that store over the ground and recharge aquifer.
Look, let's face it, Bharalaji, climate change is here to stay, it seems. Rain bombs like we've seen in Gujarat, flash floods, flooding events, these are likely to continue. So we've got to find a way of mitigating it. We must find mechanisms that we can use when it is raining so heavily during the monsoon, that we mitigate the bad impact of that and yet utilize the water for times of scarcity.
Absolutely. The only precondition is that we have to, I repeat again and again, that we have to improve our sanitation. The Swachh Bharat mission, which has been launched basically whether urban or rural area, it has to be continuously, and basically it is in the hands of people. So we have to have clean water basically to take it to our aquifers. So precondition is that our water should not be dirty.
So Bharat Lal, the Secretary General of the National Human Rights Commission and the person who was additional secretary looking at drinking water and sanitation till not that long back. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us with that very, very valuable perspective.